Hey everyone and welcome back. So the next part of this tutorial, we're going to jump right into the navigation. So let's click in here. So I have it set up as a header. That's what I've named it. And you can tell it's an auto layout frame just by its icon. I've actually nested a couple of things within. So I have the navigation and then I have a horizontal rule. That rule is that long horizontal line that goes across. I'm going to teach you how to build this navigation. So we've already built a couple pieces of it. We've built the secondary button and we've built the logo. Now let's work on the text. So I'm going to just work just above so you can see them both together. And we're going to group them into a frame. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to just select the text icon with my shortcut. And I am going to start typing some options here. So I have home, and now I'm going to duplicate it about 4 times. Oops. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So I have about. So I'm going to type about. I have our work, services, and careers. Now, when you're working on navigation items, they all have different states. They all just look the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all and use the color picker. And this is going to change the color for every single one of them. I like this color I used. So I'm going to do that. You can also change the text styles. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to have 2 different states here for now. You'll probably have 3. You'll probably have something like an active state and a hover state and a default state. This looks like a default state, and we should probably have some sort of hover state. I'm not going to really get into that right now. I'm just going to show what the active state is and the default state. And I'm just going to select regular for the default state. And now, because we're going to be on the home page, I'm just going to select this one to be semi-bold. And we're going to steal that color again. I'm going to find it down here in my document colors. And that's essentially how we can start creating our navigation items. I'm going to select them all again, but this time I'm going to rename them all together. I'm going to press Command R, and it'll be Control R for Windows users. Over here is where we have the batch renaming modal. And you can either, put their current name in. That's the sign for the current name. Some people like to have them all named the same and then maybe some sort of variation afterwards that says like V1 or V2 or something like that. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to rename them all to nav item. And the reason I'm doing this is just so I know exactly what they are. And the next thing I'm going to do is, since these are all essentially hugging their content, you can tell that from over here, they're at auto width. I'm going to select them all and I'm going to group them into a frame. And I'm going to rename that frame by pressing Command R, and I'm going to just call it navigation items. And then I'm turning it into an auto layout frame. Pretty sure you guessed that by now. And you can select the spacing. I'm going to select, I think 32 pixels is fine. You don't really need to select the alignment. They're all essentially the same here, but they're going to be spaced out horizontally in that direction. And I'm not worrying about anything else. I just want this to, be responsive. If I need to add another navigation item or remove one, it's all going to work together. So now I have my navigation item here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing this into the frame. I'm going to take this button as well because we're going to complete our navigation. And I'm going to take this logo group. Now, I think the logo group is fine. We can either move it or I'm actually going to keep it at that same size. I like having the group here because I can essentially, manipulate it, and the contents within the shapes are going to take that form as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take all of these, select them all while holding Shift, and group them into a frame. And you may be thinking, my goodness, frame after frame after frame. And I promise you, it is so worth it because you are going to create some really beautiful designs and you're going to have really clean files looking like this. Now, this is a regular frame. Now we're going to turn it into an auto layout frame again. We're not going to worry too much about like the actual width, but I'm going to actually make it span all the way to the edge. Now, I want it so that all the content is spaced across from each other, away from each other, and not packed in. So what that means is I want this on the left side, I want this on the far right side, and I want this content to be centered in the middle. So let's do that. So I'm going to go into my advanced options here. Right now it's set to 64 pixels, and instead of spacing mode at packed, I'm going to select space between. And there we go. The only thing here is now we just need to ensure that the width is fine, the padding around the sides here. So I'm going to select, let's do 30, actually let's do maybe 56 pixels. There we go. So now we have 56 pixels for the spacing. And I think that works perfectly. Now the last part is we need to get a horizontal rule like here. Now to do that, I'm going to go into my shapes and you can press L as well. Now I have my line tool and I'm going to hold down shift while I click and drag. And it's only going to let me go into 45-degree increments in terms of the angle, but I'm going to hold it like this and make it straight. Right now it's black and we don't want that color. We want something a little bit lighter. Something like that works perfectly well. And I'm going to rename it. And there we go. And I'm sure you've guessed it about now. We are going to group this into a frame again. So I'm just going to use a shortcut here. And there we go. So we have a frame. I'm going to call it header like I did in the previous file or a frame that I'm showing you over here. And I'm going to make that an auto layout frame. And the thing that we need to do here is we need to adjust the spacing. Now I think 24 pixels is sufficient here. That's kind of what it looks like there. Not that we're trying to match it pixel by pixel. And you'll notice one thing. The rule is out of place. It doesn't go all the way. So we're going to have to resize it. And the easiest way to do that and make it responsive is to go up here. So I'm going to fill that container. And now we have it spanning the entire width. So let's take a look here. It's making me select. Okay, so now you'll notice one thing. The line moves, the horizontal rule, but the navigation doesn't. And that's because we need to set it to fill the container. If you select hug contents, it's going to hug the contents and it's going to be packed instead of actually having the space between. So don't do that. Perfect. Now we've created our navigation. Whoops. See, it's trying to make me set the horizontal padding there. The last thing I do is just give it a top padding of 24 pixels. And then I can place it up here. And there we go. We have a pretty cool navigation.